CTV's Colton Praill. He's in our Ottawa Bureau with more for us this morning. Colton, happy Monday to you. Do we have any idea what Prime Minister Carney's austerity and investment budget will entail tomorrow?
We have some ideas, right? We've seen a number of pre-budget announcements that have come in since Mr. Carney formed government. Some of that is policy-based as far as what he actually wants to do. So things like defense spending. We saw the 5% commitment to NATO, a $9 billion pledge to spend that money in defense prior to March. But there's also been other things like the tariff responses that we've seen financial figures attached to. So there's $5 billion for a strategic response fund, $3.7 billion for changes, temporary changes we should add to employment insurance, to add more money and funding to ensure that people can transition in impacted industries. We've seen, $50 million for upskilling. We've seen, $13 billion for Build Canada homes on the policy side. There's been a number of very clear priority investments that the Prime Minister has given inklings will be coming in this budget. It's a larger question is how long those will be costed out. So take, the defense spending pledge. Are we only going to see $9 billion in that budget, or are we going to see a more detailed defense spending plan that looks 3-4 years down the line and accounts for purchases like submarines, for example, and really looks at the cost and the timeline for upgrading the Canadian military infrastructure, start pouring money into a defense industrial base. Those kinds of expectations are likely to show up in the budget. It's the details that will make the nitty-gritty. On the same side, you mentioned austerity. We know there are going to be savings. We know that there has been a lot of concern around what the future of the public service looks like. The organization, the union representing public service workers, is warning we could see 70,000 job cuts potentially to the public service. We've already seen 10,000 job cuts in 2025. Now, that's mostly through attrition at this point. We've seen layoffs of contract workers in the CRA, for example. But by and large, they are warning that we could see significant cuts to the public service. And you saw the finance minister just in the last few days talking about getting back to manageable levels of public servants in Ottawa, and we've seen the growth of 70,000 public service jobs since the pandemic in Ottawa, even as the population has grown by about 4 million. So that's an area where we're expecting to see some changes here. What's interesting is that there has been a lot of talk about the deficit. Going into this this budget, Mark Carney campaigned on a deficit a little higher than what we would have seen under Justin Trudeau, but still not significantly higher than that original $42 billion or so. The tariff situation changes that entirely, and now economists like Sahir Khan, who we just heard from, are saying that number could be anywhere between 70 and even over $90 billion, but they warn that's not necessarily putting Canada in a terrible position. Have a listen.
From our early assessment at the IFSD, there's probably a little bit of room to do that. It doesn't leave a lot of room for successive governments, and that's, I think, one of the challenges. So I think if you're in that 75 to 90, you're probably okay. It doesn't leave a lot of room for a crisis in the future or for subsequent governments, and it really has to focus on capital and on investment. Otherwise, we're not going to get the pop that we really need for every dollar.
And so, Marcia, really the devil will be in the details tomorrow. What gets cut? How does it get cut? That's something that we're obviously going to be paying a lot of attention to, and it is something that the federal government has said they will offer more transparency on than they have in the past.
And another point that a lot of people are paying attention to is, will this budget be supported, Colton, by opposition members? Or could Canadians be facing a Christmas election? How realistic is that possibility?
There's a lot of posturing about a potential election, and certainly there is worry. We've seen this happen before with the Clark government, for example, in the 70s, trying to force through a budget in a minority government situation. We've also seen basically all of these parties say that they're not going to be the first one to flinch. This is this one giant game of chicken, and it has brought up the possibility that perhaps you could see some opposition members abstain. So it would allow the Conservatives or the NDP or the Bloc to still vote against the budget, just not with enough votes to actually bring down the government. That's something that Pierre Poilievre was asked about yesterday at a press conference. Here's what he had to say.
We're going to show up and do our jobs to fight for an affordable budget. We'll be there on Tuesday to see what the government puts in. We don't need a higher cost of living through a higher costed budget. We need an affordable budget for affordable lives for all Canadians, and that's what we're going to be fighting for.
And so, Marcia, at this point in time, there hasn't been a party that's come out and said they will support the Liberals to get this budget through. We know that the Bloc has put up 6 non-negotiables for their support. They've already been told no by the Liberal government. The Conservatives have listed a number of things they would like to see the Liberal government do, things like getting that deficit to $42 billion, which isn't feasible given the amount of spending we've already seen committed to by government. And so how they navigate this is going to be particularly interesting to watch. There does not appear to be a lot of excitement, well, certainly not among Canadians for an election, and even among political parties for an election. There was a lot to gain if one was to come. The Liberals could get a majority government. Pierre Poilievre gets another kick at the can, but no party wants to be seen as the one that forced an election to happen at a time like this. They all recognize that Canadians understand the severity of the moment.
Colton, thanks for all that. We'll check in with you throughout the morning.